I never thought a simple mailbox could turn into a battlefield. But that's exactly what happened the morning Milton Craig, one of the so-called HOA cops, plowed his dented pickup into it for the third time in just 6 weeks. The crash didn't just rattle steel and brick. It rattled me, and it set into motion a chain of events that would drag every neighbor, every whispered lie, and every fake badge into the light. It was barely sunrise, the kind of pale orange morning where the air is still cool and you can smell the dew burning off the pasture. I was standing on my porch in an old black robe, coffee steaming in my hand. I remember how quiet it was right before it happened, the kind of quiet that makes you pay attention without knowing why. Then it snapped. Metal on brick, a jarring pop, then the long hiss of an airbag. My whole chest went tight as Milton's truck bounced off the post and wheezed to a stop, steam curling up from under the hood. Dust rolled across the ranch road like a slow-moving storm. The man sat there for a beat, stunned, before shoving the door open. He spilled out clutching his forearm, his polyester vest glinting with big white vinyl letters, police. Only it wasn't real. No badge, no department, just stickers, a costume. The only thing real in that moment was the mailbox he'd just tried to kill. Still standing tall, its little red flag pointing up like a soldier's salute. Milton glared at me, eyes hot and small. "You booby-trapped county property, Bennett." His voice cracked like he was both angry and embarrassed. I walked slowly down the gravel, the coffee still warm in my palm. My mailbox sat on a setback easement I'd measured and permitted myself, right where it was supposed to be. I flipped the lid, tapped the sticker inside, and spoke low enough for only him and the dust to hear. "Approved model, county sign-off, breakaway core built to code." He didn't like that answer. He kicked his front tire hard enough to rattle his mirrors, but the tire didn't care. "The road is straight," I said, my voice calm. "The sky is clear, you turned into it." He sneered, spitting gravel from his mouth. "Should have built better." "Should have driven better," I shot back. Just then I heard the familiar rumble of Red's old Ford. My neighbor leaned out his window, grinning like he'd just driven into a free show. "Mail call came early, huh?" he said, tipping his cap toward Milton's wreck. "You gonna sign for that, Deputy Pretend?" Milton's face darkened. Before I could answer, Lena, my wife, stepped out onto the porch. She was still in her scrubs from the night shift at the hospital, her hair tied back in a quick ponytail. But her eyes were steady, calm, the way they get when she's dealing with something far worse than a grown man in a fake police vest. She carried a fat folder in one hand, a small thumb drive in the other, both sealed in clear sleeves like evidence. "Chain of custody starts now," she said, her voice cool and even like a nurse announcing a dosage. "Originals stay with us, copies go to the county." Her timing couldn't have been sharper. 2 actual county cruisers rolled in, tires whispering over the gravel. Deputies stepped out, scanning the scene. One looked at Milton's vest, then at the vinyl lettering on his truck door, then back at me. You could see the skepticism in his eyes before he said a word. Lena stepped right into their line of sight, holding out her tablet. Collision log with timestamps, 3 prior incidents, same driver, same vehicle, chain of custody verified. The deputy's eyebrow twitched upward. She just shut down half the questions they were about to ask. Meanwhile, 2 of our neighbors stood back with their phones, recording. The scene spoke for itself. A dented truck, a man in a fake vest, a mailbox standing proud. I handed over the folder. Trail cam caught the impact at 6:14. Camera, in the Cottonwood, private drive, clearly posted. The second deputy walked to the mailbox, gave it a shake. The post flexed, then reset. He nodded. "Breakaway, compliant." He wrote it down on his pad. Milton jabbed his thumb at the truck. He rammed an officer. The deputy didn't flinch. He looked again at the vinyl police on Milton's vest. "You with a department." Milton's jaw worked. "Homeowners, I help keep order." The deputy's voice went flat. "Federal property was struck." That single word, federal, rang through the dust like a bell. I raised my coffee cup, almost like a toast. Title 18, Section 1705. A plain sedan pulled in behind the cruisers. The man who stepped out didn't need to say much. Postal Inspector Alvarez, real badge, real authority. He walked to the mailbox, snapped a photo of the sticker, then knelt by the scrape on Milton's bumper. He didn't rush. He didn't fill the air with chatter. He simply documented frame by frame until the vanity plate filled his screen. That scratch on the number 3 was clear as daylight. A truck rolled by slow, 3 men inside, Milton's poker buddies, all with HOA safety stickers slapped on their windows. One of them pointed at Alice's security camera across the street, making sure she knew they saw her filming. She didn't flinch. She stood taller. The balance in the neighborhood was shifting, fence by fence. The deputy turned back to Alvarez. Video shows impact. Owner has permits, post flexes as designed. Alvarez nodded. Send me the full file, originals preserved. Lena lifted the thumb drive like it was a prescription she'd just filled. Native file, unedited, logged. Alvarez took it, then leveled his gaze at Milton. We will document and refer for federal review. Mailbox crimes are federal. Injury claims not my lane. The deputies didn't cuff Milton, but they did sit him on the curb beside his own shredded tire. No show of force, just quiet process. And right on cue, slippers scuffing the gravel, Karen Gerwig arrived. Our self-appointed HOA queen. Her voice was sharp enough to slice bread. Entrapment, she barked. He built a weapon, that brick is illegal. The deputy didn't raise his voice. He tapped his notes. Breakaway core, compliant, set back properly, private drive. He pointed at the clean arc in the dirt. Driver appears to have aimed for contact. Karen's smile vanished. Her jaw tightened into a flat line. She leaned closer, eyes on me. We'll see you in court. Bring a ruler, I said. Numbers travel better than noise. The tow truck arrived, dropped its hook, and started winching Milton's broken pickup onto the flatbed. Red pulled out his old flip phone and snapped a picture. Smile, Milton, he called out. You're famous now. Dust glittered in the sunlight as the truck was dragged away. My mailbox stood exactly where it had been, unbothered, while the pickup left looking like a bad promise folded in half. Alvarez handed me his card. Email me the originals today, no changes. Lena flipped the card over, wrote the time neatly on the back the way she does with medication logs. She's methodical like that. As the deputies pulled away, Milton glared at me. You think this is over? I sipped the last of my coffee. It just started. The tow truck rumbled off, Karen trailing behind it with her phone raised, lips pinched thin. Red spat into the dirt where Milton had been sitting. Shame about his truck, he said, face solemn. Then he smirked. Good thing he's got that fine uniform to keep him warm. When the dust settled and the road went quiet, I studied the arc his tires carved into the gravel, the way the dust lay back down in place. I've learned something over the years. The floor tells more truth than shouting ever will. I turned back toward the house, but a thought pressed cold against my neck. The crash had been loud, but the silence before it had been worse. Because sometime in that silence, sometime the night before at 1:58 a.m., someone had moved Milton's truck. My camera had seen it. I didn't accuse, not yet. Instead, I fixed. That night I pulled a trail cam off the barn nail and set it deeper in the cottonwood by the lane, low and wide. I ran a cable to a recorder in the tack room, linked it to my phone. Then I taped a note inside the mailbox lid. A simple reminder, Title 18, Section 1705. Because the truth was simple, mailboxes are federal, and you don't need to shout if your facts are clean. You'd think after a wreck like that, a man would lie low. But the quiet that followed Milton's crash was worse than the sound of twisted steel. It was the kind of quiet that makes the hair on your arms stand up, the kind where you know something is moving in the dark, even if you can't see it. Because at 1:58 that morning before the crash, someone had already moved Milton's truck. Not by accident, not on a whim. My trail cam had caught it, headlights shifting where no headlights should have been, wheels rolling slow just a few feet forward like someone testing boundaries before dawn. I saved the clip twice. I've learned over the years to move slow when I'm angry. Quick anger leaves holes in the record. Slow anger builds fences. So I took a fresh trail cam off a barn nail and walked it out under the cottonwood trees, the gravel crunching under my boots. The night smelled of dust and summer grass, and my old gate creaked behind me like it was reminding me of every fight that road had ever seen. I mounted the camera low and wide, angled just enough to catch plates, and ran a skinny cable back to a recorder in the tack room. A hidden line shielded from weather and eyes. I linked it to my phone, checked the angle, and let the red light blink into the dark. Inside the lid of my mailbox, I taped a note. Not for me, not even for the carrier. For whoever thought they could push a truck into federal property and call it a joke. Title 18, Section 1705. Mailbox crimes are federal. You don't need to scream when the law is that clear. The next morning, Lena and I went about our chores as if nothing had happened. Coffee, fence check, cattle water. Ordinary motions that felt heavier with the weight of last night's clip in my pocket. By mid-morning, I drove into town for the Saturday market. The kind of place where everyone knows your name and your business if you let them. The air smelled like kettle corn and hay bales, a reminder that small towns carry big ears. Miss Patel was at her usual post at the county planning booth, sipping coffee from a travel mug and flipping through inspection forms. She's the one who answers questions about setbacks, fences, mailbox permits. The kind of details the HOA likes to twist until neighbors doubt their own math. I slid her a simple drawing of my setup. She barely looked before nodding. Breakaway core, approved, county code compliant. She signed and stamped it with a steady hand like she'd done 1,000 times before. I thanked her, tucked the paper into Lena's folder, and drove back home. The cam buzzed that evening. Same truck, same lazy drift toward my post. Tap, the mailbox flexed, then snapped back straight just like it was designed. The plate filled my screen. That same scratch on the number 3 stared back like a scar that wouldn't heal. I didn't chase, I didn't shout. I saved the clip. I saved the time. Lena and I sat at the kitchen table and watched it 3 times. We didn't need to, but sometimes you sit with truth until it loses its sting and turns into a plan. She slid a yellow legal pad across the table, her handwriting neat and deliberate. 2 columns, what happened, what we can prove. 4 words underlined twice, date, plate, model, code. That was Lena's way. Strip the noise until only the clean bones of proof remain. Later that week, I spotted Milton's truck at the grocery lot. The bumper dent still matched the notch my post had carved. He caught me looking and smiled, a sharp, boyish grin that didn't fit the gray in his hair. "Build better," he said. "Drive better," I answered and walked past without slowing. That night, I wrapped bright tape around the post so I could track any new bends. I tucked the cam deeper into the leaves, set another across the road to catch plates from the far shoulder. Evidence doesn't care about noise. It just waits for the right moment to speak. Then came the next HOA meeting. The room smelled of cheap coffee and carpet cleaner, the way all these rooms do. Karen sat at the center, her suit pressed sharp, her smile stretched thin. Milton lingered behind her, his arm in a sling he didn't need anymore. Their allies filled the front row. I sat with my phone, the placemat-sized printout of the license plate tucked under my arm. If they respected paper, they would act. If they respected noise, they would laugh and move on. Either way, I was ready. When my turn came, I stood. The clip played on the projector. Dawn light, the lazy swerve, the tap, the license plate filling the frame, clear as day. The same plate that had sat in my driveway that very morning. I asked for one thing, a notice, stop swerving into mailboxes. Karen leaned forward, her voice syrupy with fake concern. "Hard to tell from that angle," she said. "Could be any truck." The room murmured, some nodding, some frowning. The board moved to the next item like I'd never spoken. That was their answer, a pat on the head, a closed door, a belief that I'd slink away beaten. But rooms don't decide truth. Evidence does, and evidence has a longer memory than bullies ever expect. I walked out into the night air, the heat still clinging to Milton's hood where his truck sat parked. The dented bumper smiled back at me, the same notch burned into its steel. He gave me that grin again. Better builders don't whine. I met his eyes. Better drivers keep 2 hands on the wheel. At home, Lena had already spread papers across the table. Permits, inspection stamps, model numbers, trail cam stills. She worked with the calm patience of a nurse prepping for surgery, each page labeled, logged, and filed. The road outside our gate went quiet, but I knew better. Quiet doesn't mean peace. Quiet means someone is planning. And in that quiet, headlights would return. They always do. Some men believe a broken post means you've lost. But I've learned the opposite. Sometimes the cracks show you where the strength really lives. The day after the HOA dismissed my evidence like it was nothing, I called the county. I wanted numbers to speak louder than their noise. Miss Patel met me at the gate with a clipboard, the morning air sharp with the smell of mesquite. She walked the setback line step by step, checked the slope, measured the shoulder width. Her boots left neat prints in the gravel, like she was stamping the ground with certainty. "Breakaway core," she said, tapping the old plan I'd sketched months before. She wrote a short letter, signed it, stamped it, and handed it to me like it was more valuable than gold. Numbers over noise. That night I worked under the floodlight, cut the new 4-inch round post, drilled clean yield slots, poured a small base that would fail before any force got dangerous. Over the top I slid a hollow brick sleeve. To the eye it looked like a plain ranch box, nothing more. But beneath it a core built to bend, not break. I took photos at every step, date and time stamped at the top of each. While the concrete set, I swapped out the trail cam card and saved the clips twice. One copy for Lena, one for Red. When morning came, the new mailbox stood ready. Sticker on the lid matched the approved list at the post office. County letter in my hand. Postal inspection card beside it. For the first time in weeks, I felt that quiet hum you only get when a fence line is straight and the corners true. I could have stopped there, could have declared victory and gone back to my chores, but bullies don't stop just because the rules say you've won. They write new ones. And sure enough, by 5 p.m. that same day, the HOA taped a violation notice to my gate. In big block letters it read, "Emergency rule, wood posts only." Karen had even gone live on social media, standing with the notice flapping in the wind behind her, calling my mailbox weaponized. The comments filled fast, some cheering her, others laughing at her. I didn't laugh. Noise is still noise, and noise has a way of fooling people if it isn't countered. But Ms. Patel wasn't fooled. She showed up that evening, calm as ever, and reminded the board in writing. County code outranks HOA paper. County approves breakaway cores. I folded her letter into my binder. Brick sleeve or no brick sleeve, the core was breakaway. They couldn't ban physics, and they couldn't write a rule today to punish yesterday. Time moves forward, not backward. A few folks chuckled when I said it at the meeting. Karen didn't. That vote passed by only 2 hands, hers and the quiet man beside her. As I walked out, a board member I barely knew slipped a folded paper into my hand. Her voice was low, almost shaking. "Check the minutes when she posts them. What you see won't match what we said." I nodded, no questions, no surprise. In this kind of fight, paper often tells the real story, and silence tells even more. That night, Red showed up with pie. We sat on the tailgate, forks in hand, watching the road go pink in the last light. "They'll try court next," he said between bites. "When noise fails, bullies rent a bigger speaker." He was right. By dawn, headlights crept past my gate again. My far cam caught the plate. The log marked the time. I didn't give the man in the cab a show. I gave the file another line. The next afternoon, Milton blocked me at the feed store. He stood too close, his breath sour with coffee, his eyes sharp with something darker than annoyance. "Records can get lost," he said, jabbing 2 fingers into my chest. "Accidents happen to people, not just mailboxes." I didn't flinch. "Cameras see fingers too," I said, my voice steady. He stepped back, but the threat hung in the air like smoke. That evening, Lena put her hand on my shoulder. "Stay boring," she whispered. "Boring wins." I wanted to believe her, but I knew deep down we weren't just talking about mailboxes anymore. This was livelihood, safety, dignity. And I could feel the storm gathering, just beyond the fence line. The knock on the door wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of trouble. A deputy stood there, his face drawn the way men look when they know the paper in their hand is dumb, but duty won't let them keep it. "You've been served," he said, voice low. He placed the envelope in my palm like it was heavier than it really was. Then he tipped his hat and walked away, leaving only dust and silence behind. I laid the envelope on the kitchen table. Lena brewed 2 mugs of coffee, set a yellow pad between us, and sat down. Her eyes said we both already knew what it was. We opened it together, civil complaint. Names in bold at the top: Milton Craig, Karen HOA, Black Willow Homeowners Association. The accusations spilled down the page like lies dressed in legal clothes. Negligence, intentional harm, emotional distress, unauthorized structure in a public right-of way. They called the brick sleeve a wall. They called the breakaway core solid steel. They called Milton an officer. They even pasted in a fake quote from an account I didn't own, twisting words I never said into the kind of noise that gets people hurt. Lena's pen moved fast, small dots in the margins next to each lie. Then she drew clean counters, speaking them aloud one by one. Breakaway core hollow sleeve, private drive, county inspection passed, USPS approved model, parcel not an HOA, trail cam shows swerve, plate clear, time clear. At the end sat their demand, an emergency motion. Remove the mailbox now. Hearing set for 5 in the evening. Karen loved tired rooms, tired judges, short notice. I called Miss Patel first. They filed, I told her. They want it down, hearing set for 5. She didn't even pause. Send me the case number. I'll write the court a plain letter, model number, setback, yield slots, base design. And if the judge wants to see breakaway, I'll bring a demo post and a pull scale. If they want to test it, they'll hear it creak. That was her gift. She didn't need speeches. She brought sound physics and the kind of calm that made bluster shrink. Next, I called Inspector Alvarez. His voice was steady, unhurried. "We don't speak to injury," he said. "We verify statute and sticker, preserve your originals, put a copy of the timeline in my file." That was his way, narrow lane, heavy weight. By noon, Lena had all the paperwork sorted into tabs. We knew we couldn't walk into court empty-handed, so we found Hubert. Small office, no billboard. Hubert had big ears and quiet eyes. He listened more than he spoke, which is how you know a man is worth hearing. He leafed through the complaint, then looked at me. "We're not going to argue with adjectives. We're going to carry facts. 4 pillars, breakaway core, private land, federal statute, clean record." He built a binder you could see from across the room. Big tabs, bold letters, nothing extra. Timeline, county code. Ms. Patel's letter and stamp. Inspection cards, postal model list and carrier note. Trail cam stills. HOA minutes with edits circled in red. On top, 1 single sheet titled Facts with 10 short lines. Dates and verbs only. No fluff. 2 days later, we walked into court. The courthouse smelled of lemon cleaner and old paper. The kind of smell that tells you truth moves slow here, but it moves. Karen wore a storm gray suit pressed sharp enough to cut glass. Milton wore a sling, though I'd seen him use both arms at the feed store. I wore a clean shirt. Lena wore calm. Hubert carried only the binder and a thumb drive. Karen's lawyer went first. He walked hard, spoke loud, waved a blown-up photo of my mailbox. "A wall dressed as a post," he declared. "A weaponized mailbox. My client is an officer. He was injured by a reckless design." The judge raised his hand. "We'll need proof your client is law enforcement," he said. "Continue." The lawyer stammered, skipped, then tried again. Noise on top of noise. When he sat down, Hubert stood. He didn't speak for 2 full seconds. Just let the silence fill the room until every eye turned. Then he placed Ms. Patel's letter on the bench. "Breakaway core," he said simply. He added the inspection cards on top. "Yield slots, base designed to fail safe. Brick is a hollow sleeve." He slid forward a 1-page postal model list, then Lena's call note with the carrier ID. "USPS approved model. Carrier confirms." Last, he set the thumb drive on the bench. Video shows deliberate swerve into a compliant post on private land. Then he held up the 1-page sheet. Facts, 10 lines, dates and verbs, clean. The room went quiet as the judge leaned closer. He watched the clip play on a small screen. Dawn, drift, tap, license plate filling the frame, scratch on the number 3, clear. He tapped the inspection stamp with his finger, looked at the HOA minutes with the 1 a.m. edit circled. He sighed the way a man sighs when he knows time has been bent for someone's advantage. Emergency relief is extraordinary, he said, voice slow. Reserved for clear law and immediate harm. He turned to Karen's counsel. Motion denied. The mailbox stands. Merits reserved for trial. That was it. Karen blinked, lips pressed tight. Milton stared at his sling like it had betrayed him. In the hall, Hubert leaned against the wall, binder under his arm. Now we build the rest of the fence, he said. By that afternoon, he'd filed discovery requests. Raw minutes in native format, gate fob logs for the night of the crash, patrol notes, uniform orders, vendor receipts for vinyl police vests. He didn't ask anything he couldn't prove. The HOA stalled. Security concerns, they wrote. Hubert filed a motion to compel. The judge scribbled deadlines in the margins like storm clouds. By noon the next day, a flatbed rolled into my lane. 2 men in neon vests, logo borrowed from some contractor, jackhammer standing upright in the bed. HOA order, one said. We'll peel the brick today, quick job. I filmed from behind my locked gate. Private land, one swing and you're in trespass. Authority doesn't cross this sign. They hesitated, then one called Karen on speaker. Her voice came hot, brittle. Remove it. Before they could move, Ms. Patel's county truck nosed into the lane. Badge catching son, clipboard in hand. The men froze. Their eyes flicked from my camera to her patch to the word private on the sign. The ratchet clicked in reverse. They packed up, left quiet. That small sound, the ratchet giving back, was louder than any speech. That night, Lena sat across from me at the table, files stacked in neat towers. Chain of custody is solid, she said, her voice calm, my chest steadier. But inside, I knew one thing. This fight wasn't ending at a hearing. It was just starting to breathe. The deposition room was plain. 4 white walls, a long table, pitchers of water that tasted faintly like dust. A court reporter sat straight-backed with her small machine poised on the edge, keys waiting. Hubert set our binder down with a soft thud. He tapped the cover once. Slow, he whispered. Simple. Milton went first. No vest. No vinyl word plastered across his chest, just oath and chair. Hubert leaned forward. On the morning of the crash, Mr. Craig, what lane were you in? Milton's jaw flexed. Center, he muttered. Hubert slid a still photo across the table. The tire arc curved across gravel toward my post like a smile drawn by a child. Why does the track bend right then? Milton's lips twitched. Wind, he said. The trees are still, Hubert countered. He clicked the clip. The room went silent but for the whir of the small machine as the reporter typed. The screen showed the wheel turning right, slow but sure, the truck drifting into the post. Hubert didn't blink. Did you turn your wheel to the right before impact, yes or no? Milton's jaw worked. His nostrils flared. Finally, the word came out. Yes. Are you a sworn officer? Milton's eyes flicked up, almost proud. No. Hubert waited. Then why the vest? Why the vinyl police letters on your truck door? The answer was almost a whisper, but the reporter's keys caught it all. People listen. That was the truth in his own voice. The kind of truth that matters more than all the fake uniforms in the world. Next was Karen. She wore a calm face, fast smile, nails painted sharp red. She looked like she believed she could talk her way through anything. Hubert didn't rush. Who edits the minutes? I do, she said, chin high. Do you log changes? Her smile twitched. We post the best version. Did you mail notices about the wood post-only rule before the crash? Yes. Show stamps or clerk log. She hesitated. We hand-delivered. Names, Hubert pressed. I do not recall. Hubert slid 2 prints across the table. Draft agenda, posted minutes. One line stood out like a sore thumb, notices mailed. Properties show 1:03 a.m. This line appears only in the late edit, Hubert said, voice flat. Karen leaned back, her smile cracking just slightly. Clerical clarity, she said. Hubert let the silence sit until it made its own sound. Then it was my turn. Hubert walked the room through clean pages. Timeline, permit letter, inspection cards, postal model list. Lena placed each exhibit down with a soft click, calling the number so the reporter could tag it. Her hands steady, her voice calm. Chain of custody is live, she said each time. Not for drama, for the record. By the time the binder closed, the weight of it sat heavier than noise ever could. The court set a site visit if needed. Discovery deadlines fixed. Depositions would resume the next week. That afternoon, a van marked Safe Streets Compliance rolled up my lane. Rented logo, borrowed smile. 2 men in neon vests climbed out. Jackhammer stood in the bed like a threat dressed as a tool. Here to help you meet the new rule, one said cheerfully. We can peel the brick today, quick job. The gate was locked. My sign said private in clean, bold letters. I held my phone high. Your rule stops here. Step over this sign, you trespass. The man flipped a page in his clipboard like paper could turn my land into theirs. We have authority. He set the ratchet on the brick sleeve. The click carried. Lena didn't raise her voice. She lifted her phone higher, her words crisp. Video rolling. Timestamp 4:19 p.m. The man frowned, called Karen on speaker. Her voice came sharp and brittle. Remove it. At that moment, Ms. Patel's county truck nosed into the lane. Sun caught the badge on her sleeve. She stepped out, clipboard in hand. The tech froze mid-pull. His eyes pinged from her patch to my camera to the sign that read private. The ratchet clicked in reverse. They packed up, left quiet. That sound, the small ratchet giving ground, felt like a clean win. Not loud, just steady. That night, Lena set the binder on the table, tapped the index she'd built. Straight, she said, no gaps. I looked at her, then at the quiet house. The cottonwoods whispered outside. Somewhere a truck door slammed in the dark. We weren't done, not even close. But the record was growing heavier each day, and noise was getting lighter. The first sign came in the mail. A folded packet slipped through the slot, stamped with HOA letterhead, but the paper smelled too fresh, the ink too sharp. Inside, a copy of the minutes, clean, polished, edited down to something that looked like order but carried the weight of lies. The late-night line about notices mailed no longer sat crooked at 1:03 a.m. instead. It was shifted back to 6:00 p.m., as though time itself had been rewritten. I laid the new version flat on the table beside the original, the way a carpenter lays 2 boards side by side to find which one's warped. Lena caught it first. She held both pages to the window, light sliding through, one watermark crisp, the other blurred, a poor copy of a county seal. Forgery, she said, her voice steady. That word carried. We scanned both copies, saved them twice. Hubert sent them to a forensic examiner he trusted. Within days, the report came back. Metadata showed edits after midnight, fonts swapped, properties manipulated. The lie sat right there in the code, waiting to be read. Hubert smiled the way a man smiles when he knows patience will pay. Noise doesn't age well, he said. But paper wasn't their only trick. At 2:11 a.m. 2 nights later, the trail cam blinked. My phone buzzed. A figure moved low along the fence line, flashlight hooded. Not Milton this time. Not the usual truck. Just a shadow in a hoodie, moving with the awkward certainty of someone who believed darkness was enough to hide them. They reached the post, bent close, ran a hand along the brick sleeve as though feeling for weakness. Then the beam of the flashlight caught the lid. The taped note inside, Title 18, Section 1705, flashed in their eyes. They froze. And just like that, they turned and jogged back into the night, the cam catching the last 4 digits of a plate as the car pulled away. I didn't chase, I didn't shout. I saved the clip, added the time. The next morning, Red leaned over the fence while feeding his goats. Saw a car creeping last night, he said. Didn't recognize the driver. They weren't looking for me. I nodded. Camera saw the same. He spat into the dirt. Funny thing about shadows, they always forget the ground keeps their shape. Word started to spread. At the feed store, Mrs. Diaz touched my arm gently. "Saw your video online," she whispered. "Careful, Bennett, you're right, but careful." At the post office, the carrier paused at my box. "Never seen one stand up to 3 hits," he said softly. "Good build, don't back down." Even Alyssa across the street, once careful to stay neutral, waved one evening while watering her flowers. "Camera, still running," she called. "They know it." Small gestures, quiet nods. But in a neighborhood where fear had always bent spines, people were starting to stand a little straighter. Hubert called a week later. "Forensic reports ready," he said. In the conference room, he spread the pages like a deck of cards. Version 1, Version 2. Edits logged at 1:03 a.m. Fonts inconsistent. Seal scanned. Properties falsified. He tapped the last page. "Forgery is louder than silence. We'll let the judge hear it." Karen sat stone-faced at the next hearing, lips pressed thin as Hubert laid the 2 sets of minutes side by side. "The board cannot certify its own lie," Hubert told the judge. "Chain of custody proves tampering, originals preserved, metadata clear. This is not clerical clarity, this is alteration." The judge listened, eyes heavy. "Discovery abuse has consequences," he warned. He didn't sanction her then, but the warning carried the weight of a hammer waiting to fall. That night, Lena and I sat on the porch in the cool air, the crickets loud in the dark. She held my hand. "It isn't just a mailbox anymore," she said. "It's about whether noise can write truth." I squeezed her hand back, and whether paper can stand up to power. The fight was changing. It wasn't about one post. It was about the ground under it. And the HOA knew it. Their lawyer filed a motion the very next morning, fast-tracked to trial. He claimed we were dragging it out, that the neighborhood needed resolution, that my so-called wall was a menace. The judge set the date, 60 days. Karen smiled at me in the hall as though victory was already hers. Milton just muttered under his breath, "Accidents happen." I didn't answer, because I knew something they didn't. Every accident leaves a record. And records don't forget. The courthouse smelled the same as it always did. Lemon cleaner, old carpet, and the faint iron tang of nerves. Karen swept in first, her heels clicking sharp against the tile, gray suit pressed like armor. Milton followed, sling gone, but the grimace plastered on his face heavier than before. Their lawyer carried a thick stack of blown-up photos, all tilted to make my mailbox look like a fortress wall. I sat quiet, Lena beside me, Hubert at the end of the table with his binder. He didn't pace, didn't puff, just waited with the calm weight of a man who knew patience beats noise. The judge entered, the gavel tapped. "Black Willow Homeowners Association v. Bennett, we begin." Karen's lawyer rose first. Loud voice, sweeping arms, he called my post weaponized, called Milton an officer of the community. He waved the photos like proof, framed them as menace. He even pointed at me, called me reckless, dangerous. The judge listened, eyes steady, pen barely moving. When the lawyer sat, Hubert stood. He didn't clear his throat, didn't raise his voice. He slid one tabbed page forward. "Exhibit 1, he said. County permit letter. Breakaway Corps approved model compliant setback. Inspector Patel present to testify." He slid another. "Exhibit 2, Postal Service model list. This box matches. Inspector Alvarez present to testify." Another, Exhibit 3, trail cam stills, time-stamped, plate visible, driver steering right. Last, Exhibit 4, HOA minutes 2 versions, forensic report confirms tampering, metadata proves post-event edits. Then he held up the same single sheet I'd seen him carry since the first hearing. 10 lines, dates and verbs. "Facts," he said, "clean, simple." The judge nodded, "Proceed." Milton was called first. He shifted in his chair, tugged at his collar. "Mr. Craig," Hubert began, "you claim injury from my client's mailbox." "Yes." "You swore under oath you were in the center lane." "Yes." Hubert held up the photo of tire arcs curving into my post. "Why does the track bend right?" Milton swallowed. Wind. The video played, trees still. No breeze, steering wheel visibly turned. Did you steer right before impact? Silence. Yes, Milton muttered finally, his voice flat. Are you a sworn officer? His jaw clenched. No. Why the vest? Why the vinyl police letters on your truck? Milton's face burned red. People listen, he admitted, the words catching in his throat. The reporter's keys clicked every syllable into permanence. Karen was next. She walked with confidence, smile rehearsed, hands folded like she owned the room. Mrs. Jerwig, Hubert asked softly, who edits HOA minutes? I do. Do you log changes? Her smile wavered. We post the best version. Hubert laid the 2 sets of minutes side by side. One line glared bold. Notices mailed at 1:03 a.m. This line appears only after midnight, Hubert said. Karen's laugh came too quick, too sharp. Clerical clarity. The forensic examiner stepped up next. Calm voice, technical words. Metadata confirms post-event edits, fonts inconsistent, seals scanned, not original. Karen's smile cracked, the room caught it. Then came Ms. Patel. She spoke plain, boots polished, clipboard neat. Mailbox core is breakaway, slots cut to yield, sleeve hollow, county permit valid, inspection passed, setback legal, complaint unfounded. Her words weren't dramatic. They didn't need to be. Numbers don't shout, they stand. Last, Inspector Alvarez. He held up a photo of the sticker inside the lid. USPS model number verified. Mailbox approved. Federal Statute 18, Section 1705 applies. Striking or destroying a mailbox is a federal crime. His badge caught the light, no costume needed. The judge leaned back, fingers steepled. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the old air vent overhead. Hubert closed the binder, set it gently on the table. Noise is not proof, he said. Facts are. Karen's lawyer tried to push back, waving photos again, insisting my post was a wall, a trap, a danger. But the words felt thinner now, like air running out of a balloon. The judge held up his hand. I will review the full record, decision under advisement. The gavel tapped once. The room emptied. Karen walked past me, her perfume sharp, her whisper sharper. You think you've won? This isn't over. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because outside, on the courthouse steps, neighbors waited. Red leaned against the rail, Alissa stood beside him, even Mrs. Diaz was there. Quiet faces, steady eyes. They didn't cheer, they didn't chant. They just stood, and in that standing I felt something stronger than noise. Fear had been their leash, truth was cutting it. But the fight wasn't done. The judge hadn't ruled, and storms always gather hardest before they break. The call came just after noon, the kind of hour where sunlight burns heavy and everything feels slower. Hubert's voice was steady on the line, but I could hear the edge of satisfaction hiding underneath. The ruling's in, he said. Meet me at the courthouse. Lena and I drove in silence. The hum of the old truck, the crunch of gravel under the tires, the creak of the gate as it closed behind us. Everything felt sharper, like the world knew we were about to hear something that would bend more than paper. Inside, the courtroom was half empty. Karen sat stiff in the front row, lips pressed so thin they almost vanished. Milton slouched beside her, arms crossed, the fake vest nowhere in sight. Their lawyer tapped a pen against the table, too fast, too loud, a sound of nerves pretending to be confidence. The judge entered, robe swaying with the weight of weeks of silence. He didn't waste time. I've reviewed the record, he began. His voice was slow, even the kind of voice that makes men lean forward without realizing it. This court finds the mailbox in question complies with county setback and construction requirements. It is a federally approved model. Evidence confirms the design is breakaway. Karen shifted, her jaw tight. The judge continued, his eyes never leaving the paper in his hands. The plaintiff, Mr. Craig, admits to steering into the post. His claim of officer status is unsupported. Injury is self-inflicted. HOA minutes were altered post-event, undermining credibility of their claims. The words fell like stones into water. No drama, just impact. Emergency rule regarding wood posts only is declared void. Injunction denied. Defendant's mailbox stands. Costs awarded to the defendant. The gavel tapped once, just once, but it carried louder than any threat I'd heard all year. Karen rose fast, heels clacking like gunfire on tile. She didn't look at me, didn't look at anyone, just stormed out with her lawyer trailing behind, papers spilling from his folder. Milton muttered something I didn't catch. His shoulders sagged lower than I'd ever seen them. Lena squeezed my hand, not tight, not showy, just steady. Outside on the courthouse steps, the sun hit bright, almost too bright. Red was waiting, arms crossed, grin wide. Alyssa stood beside him, her phone in hand, camera still recording. Even Mrs. Diaz had come, her quiet presence saying more than words. "You stood tall," Red said. "About time someone did." I didn't answer right away. My chest felt light but heavy all the same. Victory doesn't erase the weight of the fight, it just lets you set it down. That evening back at the ranch, I walked the lane slow. Dust rose around my boots, the air smelled of hay and cooling earth. The mailbox stood at the easement, flag up, sun glinting off its hollow brick sleeve. I laid my hand on the lid. Cold metal, solid, but not the kind of solid that resists. It was the kind that bends and returns, just like it was built to. For weeks I had worried about noise, Karen's voice, Milton's threats, the HOA's paper storms, but noise fades. What lasts are the things built with care, with numbers, with truth. Sometimes dignity looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like evidence stacked page by page. And sometimes it looks like a mailbox standing after everything else has fallen. As the sun sank, the road grew quiet, no trucks swerved. No shadows crept along the fence, just stillness. I sipped my coffee, let the last warmth of the day soak in, and thought about the lesson carved into every minute of this fight. Noise can scare you, noise can delay you, noise can even bruise you. But noise can't outlast truth. And that mailbox, still standing proud against the evening sky, was proof. You've heard this confession, now wait until you hear the next one, the truth that shatters everything you thought you knew.